there is no such thing as a dream college.
Our guest has been doing this for 35 years. He has been guiding students from Singapore, India, specifically the United States.
Today's teenagers are growing up in the most complicated world ever. Give these parents a reality check. Look, guys, back off. Let your kids be who they are. If they're passionate about startups, let them do that. If they want to be engineers, let them do that. If they want to go and sing on Broadway, for God's sake, let them do that.
Let's go to the next big topic, which of course is the essays.
Don't even write your prompt with an AI tool. It's dangerous.
Okay.
You're going to get caught. Never use AI when doing an essay, ever. Because even if you don't, you're not safe. There was a fabulous essay I remember reading a few years ago, which started off with the sentence, "I burn books." When I was looking at setting up an institution of my own, I remember he said one thing to me: make sure that undergrad students have a lot of access to sex.
Oh
Who said
my
this to you?
God! I'm not sending my children.
Welcome, Mohit. Our guest has been doing this for 35 years. And by this, I mean he has been guiding students from Singapore, India, internationally to some of the best colleges in the world, specifically the United States.
And more importantly, he's been guiding the families behind this entire application process, which just seems to be so arduous. But before we launch into the full discussion with you, Mohit, full disclaimer, Mohit is my husband, and I have seen this firsthand because he, I think, brought this education counseling into India when it was very nascent and had a massive success story with it. We won't launch into that. Second disclaimer, Shweta is a mother whose kids have applied for university and successfully got in. If anybody is a novice here, it's me. So I am asking the questions on behalf of the lalus in this field. So Mo,
Well, one has got through, the other one is actually going through the process. So
very handy
again,
then. Good
very,
timing.
very much needed. Yes.
Okay, so Mo, first and foremost, before we launch into the deep dive and just unraveling every aspect of this journey, can you give us a broad overview of what the college admission process is for the United States?
A broad overview is that, generally, depending on the application itself, right, and where you're going to go, it's a fairly comprehensive process. It basically, there's a common app or a coalition app, which basically is a application form that most colleges use in order for them, in order for them to assess applicants. So you generally don't have to submit separate applications. Of course, there are some universities that don't fit in that space, such as the University of California's, MIT, etc. They have their own separate applications. But overall, as an overview, there's a common application. There are standardized tests. The process is more or less a level playing field for everybody.
Your child has done everything right. You've got strong grades, solid SAT or ACT scores, meaningful, good extracurriculars, and still they don't get into the colleges they were aiming for.
Why is that? Actually, the system fair over here in trying to, get the right students into their colleges.
The system is largely fair, actually. It's not unfair at all. One is the red flags, right? And red flags are something that students inadvertently will put into an essay or will fly into a recommendation letter, or there's a mismatch of some information. The second red flag that I find is the biggest problem, honestly, is the authenticity, right? And if somebody has, for example, decided to pick up a passion project, in saving marine life, as an example, dealing with ecosystems, but generally there's not a recommendation, there's not any kind of background from some kind of genesis from where that passion has come from. It starts to read like you're doing it to tick off a box or game the system. These are just some examples of red flags. Authenticity, genuineness are two very serious red flags.
Okay, so you've spoken so much about it. So we were going to talk about it later, but let's go straight into this.
So break down early decision, early action, and regular decision. What are these terms? What do they
Okay.
mean?
So early decision is generally 1st of November in the application cycle. Okay, and that basically means that being you're considering the school as your first choice, which means if you get in, you have to go. There's no option, right?
Correct.
It does not restrict you from applying early action anywhere else, but you cannot apply early decision or REA anywhere else. Okay, so that's the first one. Now and I don't want to complicate the issue, but University of Chicago, for example, has started an ED0. All right, so there are now three ED cycles. One is ED1, which is November 1st. University of Chicago, if you do one of their four specific summer programs, including one that's online, you can apply early decision zero, which gives you even a further edge. But they're the only school that's doing that right now. One of the only schools that's doing that right now. So ED has two cycles. One is your ED1, and then some schools have an ED2 cycle as well, like University of Chicago, where you can apply with your regular decision application, which is generally at the end of December, around about 31st of December, give or take a few days, depending on the school. And there you're a regular decision applicant and you are not committed. If you get in, that's great. If you don't have to go there. Let's just talk about early action. Early action generally shows that it's a priority for you, and you are applying there. That's the optics of it, but you're not committed to going there. One of the reasons why students will also have a few colleges in their early action pool is just because it's easier to manage. So you don't have too many in your regular decision pool. Now let's come to the last one, the restricted early action. Uh, this is actually one of the most interesting uh, application cycles. It generally falls around about the same day as the early decision application, give or take a few days. And here's the thing: you're not committed, but you cannot apply early decision or early action to any other school in that cycle.
Why do colleges like EDs? I mean, does it give them information about students coming in way before the whole cycle starts? I mean, is it financial? What's the reason for these different categories?
It's it's yield. It's honestly
Yes.
just
Yield.
it's yield. Is that I mean that's
Yield.
the honest answer. They want to attract the best students early and fill up the most important seats that they have. It's yield.
While most universities say that they're test optional, still testing is so encouraged and students do actually undergo testing and submit the scores. So where are we sitting on this? Are tests truly optional when universities say they're test optional or no? What is the story here?
Now there's test optional and there's test blind, and of course there's test compulsory, right? So and within a university, some programs can say we do want the test, and others can say we are optional or blind, right? Now let me
I
take you
see.
through what these three are.
Hmm.
Compulsory means you have to do the test and you have to submit it, right? Uh, you can do the test multiple times, and in most cases, you can submit the score or the super score that you think is the best, right, for
Is
you.
there a cap on how many times?
Not really. It used to be,
Okay.
but not anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and then you've got test blind, which means that your application it will be not jeopardized in any way if you haven't submitted your test scores. So they don't look at your test scores as a means to red flag you. Now let's look at test optional, which is really where the ambiguity has always been in the last few years, especially through the pandemic, because a lot of it started happening. Then, believe it or not, actually, Harvard Business School played with this. God, no, oh my gosh, about uh, sometime in the 1990s, I think it was, when they made the GMAT um optional, and they took in one third of their pool without considering the GMAT, and they took another third considering the GMAT. And strangely, when they considered the academic achievement of both pools, they found that there was no difference. So they actually, for a while, did away with the GMAT at the MBA level. There was the Harvard Business School. So during the pandemic, obviously, it became very difficult, and schools went optional, right? Because in some countries, the test is not available online. You have to do it physically. So it became optional. Now, here's the truth. While technically it shouldn't jeopardize you if it's optional, remember that if you are competing against a student and all things being equal, has a strong SAT score and you've chosen not to submit your SAT score, it will. I mean, look, we're all humans, right? And the admissions officers are no different. It's got to lead to a question: why not? Right?
So do you
Where's
recommend that
the
your
red
students?
flag here?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry,
So
no, go on.
while schools will say that, look, you can be test optional, and they'll be considered only if you submit it. The fact is, if you I mean, to your earlier question of what's the application process like, and maybe I was a bit brief then because it's a really broad question. But for example, you've got a situation where everything that you throw into your application is only going to benefit you. So if I throw in an SAT score, it's going to benefit me if I've done well as against someone who hasn't thrown in an SAT score.
It's just another filter. It's just another way, I guess, to understand where the caliber of the student is. I
Yeah.
mean, why the US? What is the US education offering us, which is different from the other countries around the world? And why this craze for undergraduate studies in the US?
Okay. So let me start by saying, actually, I've studied in both systems.
Okay.
So I actually know, apart from working with universities who I've actually worked with one-on-one in an advisory capacity, or even with students, I've actually been a student in both systems. Um, Now here's something really, really interesting. My mentor, when I got into education after I graduated, I was really lucky because I graduated in a recession, no jobs were available. I was a door-to-door salesman. And then I was picked up and put in a university system to work in financial aid and admissions to start with. Admissions, financial aid, back in admissions, then with the provost office, um, and so on, right? But I had a mentor called Dr. John Russell, and I'll tell you something about him. Fabulous guy. In fact, he used to tell me stories about. He took me to Princeton once, and he talked to me about how he'd see Albert Einstein walking up and down the lawns barefoot, and
Wow.
we've heard that story, right? And when I was looking at setting up an institution of my own in India, um, I remember he said one thing to me. He said, Mohit, if you want to set up a grad school, make sure you give the students the greatest library possible. And if you want to set up the greatest undergraduate school or schools where you'll get large enrollments, make sure that undergrad students have a lot of access to sex. This was Dr. John Russell who
Oh
said
my
this to me.
God.
I'm not sending my children to
And my boys are not going to be
No,
happy
but
hearing
it's
this.
evolved since then. This
Did you
was in the
say?
90s.
True. Actually, don't know.
Yeah.
What do you say?
So,
That's hysterical.
so, so the truth is that the US, when we say it's an all-rounded education, it is an all-rounded education. Believe it or not, for as a full-time student, I spent a total of only 15 hours in class a week because I needed to take 15 credits a week, and that's I needed 120 credits to graduate, and I spent 15 hours a week, and over 8 semesters, it added up to 120 credits, right? But that didn't mean I wasn't studying. I was studying non-stop. I was in the library. The system is based on the grades are based on class participation, on attendance, your assignments, your unit tests that happen during the class, your midterm test, and your final test is all. So it all adds up, right? Um, the college athletic and clubs experience in the United States is absolutely enriching beyond belief, right? When
Isn't
you
that just
also
a lot of drinking and partying, or is there more to it?
no, I
Club,
mean no. When I say clubs, I mean stuff like debate clubs. I
Sports
don't mean
programs.
clubbing,
Yeah.
right? I mean like societies. I mean clubs like the chess club, bridge club, social service clubs. There's a lot that's going on in developing who you are as a person. The other thing that the United States has a great advantage in is the fact that you're not locked into your major in most cases, right? You have the ability to explore, experiment. Look, most universities in the United States will allow you to apply as an undecided major. You
Right.
really can't do that at most universities in the United Kingdom, or Australia or India, because of the fact that you have to choose what they call a stream, or in the UK your course code. The best students apply there, so you're in a class with the best students, and guess what? Through a process of osmosis, if you're in a class with the best student, you're going to become the best.
Okay, let's now go on to something that that's really interesting because in this segment we're going to address some of the myths.
let's go through what people believe and what they're getting wrong in
Yep.
this whole
Okay.
section, basically.
So number one,
Yep.
perfect grades put you in a strong position.
Yeah, of course they put you in a strong position. That's true.
The Ivy League is where all the real opportunities are.
Oh, absolutely not. There are, I mean, for God's sakes, absolutely not.
More extracurriculars on your application means better chances.
No, of course not.
There's a formula that you can just replicate.
Yes, there is a formula that you can replicate, but it's not a fail-safe formula. You need there's individualism that goes into that, and that needs to be integrated into that particular formula. So the formula may be similar for each of us, but the output or the end result is different for each of us.
And a good counselor can significantly help outcomes.
Well, it's like any good mentor, right? The answer is yes.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
let's talk about your method more. When you first meet a student, what are you trying to understand?
What
Uh,
reveals who they are beyond their achievements
Yeah.
for you?
yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'm just looking at is for that spark, you
Hmm.
know, not the grades, not I'm not looking at the numbers. That's why I don't ever work with somebody who I've never met, or at least spoken to at length. I've had to work with a number of students, a large number of students in the United States who uh, actually I've never met. I worked with two sisters, both whom are at the University of Chicago right now, I've never met, but I've had to really get to know them over video calls and in-person calls. Now, one of the things that's really important when you first meet a student is, I think Shweta really nailed it when she said chemistry, right? I think how you guys get along, even if it's chemistry, in what might be a very dry conversation for 30 minutes, if there's 1 minute of chemistry, that spark exists. And I think that's very important for me. It's something I learned in another avatar of mine when I was working, uh, with animals and racehorses, and sometimes you just realized that, uh, you know, like children, like these horses, children need time to develop. Everybody develops in their own steam. Some of them are reticent. Many of them, when they're talking to me, because they realize that I have a limitation on how many students I can mentor every year, they feel they're coming into an interview.
Interview.
So it's my job to make them feel secure about the fact that we're just getting to know each other, and there's no judgment, and what they say at that point in time is in no way going to affect the decision I make on whether I want to work with them and whether they should work with me, because it's a two-way decision, right? So the first thing I want to see is some kind of motivation, some kind of spark, because the one thing I can't do is work with kids who just aren't motivated. I mean, if they're coming to the games to look at someone who's going to just run a process for them, then I can list 100 companies who could do that. I'm not the right person.
Okay, now let's again go back into the application process. Okay, the one big thing is a college list? Firstly, what is a college list?
It's a very overrated document to begin with, right? And you're absolutely right. It's one of the first things a parent will ask me. It's strange, but in the first two or three conversations, the parent will say, "Well, can we make a list?" And I have to look at them and say, "No, we can't, because until we actually have some understanding of what your students, what the student's going to look like, what he or she's going to shape into, it's impossible to make a list, right? Because you can't stereotype a kid to a college just because the parent wants that kid to go there. It just doesn't work like that. So the list is something that I personally only put together, believe it or not, um, after I have the first draft of the common application form ready. Till then, I don't touch a list. And, I mean, some parents are pretty insistent, so I can, rattle off names off the top of my head, which, some I know will apply to vaguely, but many of which we then finally have to either scratch off or replace.
So, list is basically a list of potential colleges that the child will apply to, and that's categorized
Yeah.
into reach, safety, and
um, uh,
Target.
target, or
Target.
even what do you call it, where you want to get into that college.
We're talking about
uh,
the most
dream.
the dream college.
the dream college.
Dream
Okay,
college,
Okay,
let
dream
so
me
college,
so
safety
this
college.
this brings us to exactly that, the top 20 colleges problem. I mean,
yeah.
now that you've said that you only decide on the list after the common app,
Yeah.
then when parents or kids come to you and they rattle off those 20 colleges that you have heard over and
Yeah,
over
time and
again,
time again, absolutely.
Yeah.
mostly the Ivy League colleges and mostly coming
Mm.
from the parents and that pressure, how do you make that work?
Let's bucket the everybody to begin with. Okay.
Okay.
With generally Indian parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, really?
Oh,
You
really? This is
oh
not
yeah,
Asian parents?
I don't face this with US parents ever.
An Asian, say
Asian,
Singaporean?
Singaporean, from China.
Uh well, China, I've really never worked with a student from mainland China. Philippines, I've worked with. UAE, I've worked with. India, Singapore. Singapore less so, but it's really the Indian parents in Singapore and the
Hi.
Indians where they basically have this desire for their kids to go to these 20 schools without naming all of them, but we pretty much know which these
Yes.
are,
But is it
right?
for them to have the bragging rights or for the good of the child?
Oh, it's for them to have the bragging rights. There is no such thing as a dream college. You know, be authentic, be honest, be real about who you are. Don't lie on your application. And guess what? Your dream college will find you. You don't have to look. Okay, like I said right at the beginning, there are students who say this is not transparent, not fair, I didn't get it. You know what? Reality check. It's fair, it's transparent, be real, and the place that you'll be happiest at is the place you'll get into.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, because now you've categorized it and been very specific that Indian parents are the ones that have this pressure, put this kind of pressure on their kids, so much so that if the kids don't get into these said schools, do you see that the kids feel like they failed, or does that pressure translate
Yeah.
into their personalities and performance?
Today's teenagers are growing up in the most complicated world ever. Mental health today amongst teenagers is rising rapidly. And my only advice to any parent who's listening to this right now, back off. You're going to regret it in the future. Because guess what? It could lead to your kid getting resentful. It could lead to your kid growing at a pace that they're not ready to grow at and burning out. Or unfortunately, something even more dire. Be really careful about this. Any parent that's listening to this. Look, the truth is, one person in a space like this who can be authentic, who can be genuine, because the truth is, I don't need the business. It's because it's not really a business for me, right? I
Yeah.
don't need it. Uh, so I'm happy to speak the truth and give these parents a reality check. Look, guys, back off. Let your kids be who they are, and let them thrive within who they are as people. If they want to be If they're passionate about startups, let them do that. If they want to be engineers, let them do that. If they want to go and sing on Broadway, for God's sakes, let them do that. Don't don't
Don't
take
don't
away
bucket them
don't
on that.
take away their joy. To let them grow within their talent, if not ours, right? And not the talent we want them to grow into.
But just give us a few hidden gems. Are there?
Wow.
Is there anything
Okay.
called a hidden gem? Those colleges that are less known, perhaps, but amazing and may not necessarily be an Ivy League school.
An engineer looking to study business as well. There's a school called Lehigh, and
Sorry, spell it.
Lehigh, Lehighh. Okay, great engineering program. Lots of financial aid for international students as well. Um,
Secrets
and
out.
and I wouldn't hesitate it. I wouldn't hesitate for a second if a student said, "Look, Lehigh's on my list." I said, "Great, go for it," right? Because I'm quite aggressive with my list on that target reach safety, right? Let's take psychology. Why not Ohio State University? Okay, it's got one of the most compelling psychology programs in the world. Let's talk about somebody in the computer science and tech and the startup and the Silicon Valley ecosystem. You don't have to go to Berkeley or Stanford. Go to Santa Clara. 106-acre small campus, individualized classes. Your professors are mentors to you. And guess what? You're in Santa Clara, you're in Silicon Valley. Just think of the opportunities. And guess what? If you want to go by ranking, they're not badly ranked either. They rank 59 on US News and World Report's uh, rankings. And you're going to be sitting, every kid out there, remember, is going to be coding. And every kid is going to be looking at the next startup. And between you and your friend, you're going to probably create the next unicorn. So, these are hidden gems. Then you want to do politics? You don't have to go to Georgetown. Of course, I'm partial to Georgetown. But you've got a school like Bowdoin as an example, where you had a former US president
Which one?
graduate from there, Fitzgerald. You've got George
My nephew
Washington
went there.
University. Oh yeah, it's a great school, right? I mean, it's a beautiful campus, as you probably know, Shweta. So, and then you've got in the city, you've got George Washington University if you want to do politics, because guess what, your campus is adjoining the World Bank. You've got opportunities in Washington D.C., and if you want to join the ranks of policymakers around the world, maybe that's where you should go.
Okay, here is
Yeah,
the question of the hour.
yeah.
Okay, with all this AI disruption, with so many changes coming up, with so many career opportunities or differences, what do you think students should prepare themselves with? What should they study?
Technology will always change and evolve to become an enabler. What's becoming even more relevant now are subjects like physics, history, literature. College education has never been more relevant than now, in my opinion. Right?
Interesting.
I don't believe that uh, there's been a more important time for a student to go to college, study Plato, who obviously talks about the works of Socrates, read Shakespeare, go back and learn poetry, go back and understand physics and how physics solves or physics runs most of the world, understand how carbon chemistry is responsible for anything that's alive. AI is the other side of that. It doesn't allow you to go deep because it does the thinking for you. It also does thinking for you in a flawed manner, because if you don't have the foundations, your instinct, your intuition can't tell you when AI is wrong or right.
So the
Yeah.
net takeaway is that college education is absolutely necessary. Kids should continue to learn and deep dive, right, with physics, etc. So
Yeah.
tell me, are the traditional paths still secure? The doctor, lawyer, engineer, etc.
Oh, yeah, of course. If a lawyer knows their law, AI is never going to be able to replace that lawyer. At best, AI will be able to shorten the process through which case studies are researched and how their assistants and how their associates are able to help them, right?
Okay, great.
Is AI going to be able to argue a matter for them robotically? Maybe someday in the future, but I don't think a lawyer is going to be replaced in that sense very quickly. Yes, lawyers in a corporate sense, drafting contracts, The basic stuff can be done through AI, but
Okay.
lawyers are recession proof, doctors are recession proof. You know, they
Now the
if they
technology
utilize
proof, that
AI
means
well,
we
they're going to do very well.
let's go to the next big topic, which of course is the essays. Like the
what
next question.
what a
First,
college admission officer is looking for in an essay,
so they need,
what stands out, etc.
Don't even write your prompt with an essay with an AI tool. It's
Okay.
dangerous. You're going to get caught. Uh, the AI tools that universities are using are not 100%. Um, they don't work at 100% efficacy. Sometimes it could be your own work, and the AI tool may still pick it up and say there's a 70% chance or a 60% chance that AI was used in this essay. It's happened before. And let me tell you something, that universities each have a different threshold, right? Some will say that if the if the tools or the diagnostic tools show 20% tolerance towards a software tool, or they're accounting for 20% um, you know hallucination from the
margin
AI
error or
tool,
whatever. Yeah.
they'll yeah or margin of error, they'll say, okay, we give the benefit of the doubt. But my advice is to never use AI when doing an essay, ever, because even if you don't, you're not safe.
Mohit, you've come across a million essays.
I swear.
Give us your most memorable one. What is it that has really blown you away?
And stayed with you.
There was a fabulous essay I remember reading a few years ago, which started off with the sentence, "I burn books." It basically talked about uh, it was about censorship, and specific to women's rights in a particular space. I can't say much more than that, because don't
Okay,
forget,
fair enough.
essays are very
Right.
personal and very, very
Yes,
private, right? So I can't say
understandable.
much more than that.
Okay, great. Now moving on. Pesa, pesa, pesa. The
What?
real cost.
Yeah, the
The
what the
real
real
cost
cost.
for a US undergrad education. And we're not just talking about the tuition. We are talking tuition and coming home and going back, and insurance and khana pina and accommodation and outings and whatever
So, if a
peripherals.
parent is getting ready to send their child
Yeah.
to the US, what is the budget they should be looking for to saving or keeping aside?
Realistically, yes.
So obviously, there's private education and there's state education, right? And there's a reasonable difference in cost, even though out of state fees are much higher. Uh, a good private education at the higher level can cost up to about $100,000 a
A
year.
year.
A year, yeah. But 100,000 is a realistic number for a private uh, college. I mean, you can. I mean, the some will say 80,000, but it's in that range. 85,000 to about 100,000 a year. State schools are slightly more forgiving, and you can probably get away with a budget at some schools of 65 to about 75,000 a year. Most US colleges for international students are not need blind. So if you actually fill out an international student financial aid form, a FAFSA, and an international CSS profile, and you're applying to one of the non-need blind schools, you are jeopardizing your chances of getting in. That's on the need side. Okay. However, schools like Harvard, Brown, Princeton, Middlebury, and there are others as well, are need blind for international students. And here's the other thing, parents shouldn't be afraid to negotiate with universities. You can appeal a financial aid package that you've received. It used to be a very, very, it used to be a joke at the college I was working at. The head of the head of the entire financial aid department, Tim Burton, uh, and I used to have this constant um, this we had this one meeting every day where I would go with a file to him and say, Tim, this kid, you don't know what he's been through, what she's been through. We
Yeah,
have
just
to
feeding
find
that up.
$5,000 more from the budget and give it to her. That's all she needs. I met her. That's all he needs. And he just used to say to me, "You're going to give away the school one day," right? Because we used to have this conversation. We used to have this conversation, I tell you, every day. And if he's watching this, he's probably going to laugh.
You send him a
He's
link.
probably going to laugh. Yeah, he's probably going to laugh at this and remember it, because I used to always go and I used to sit in his office. And there were times when I said, "Tim, I know you have a meeting and I know you want me to go back to my cabin, but I am not going until I get $5,000 more or $3,000 more." Yeah.
Give parents a roadmap,
Yeah, age by
age
age.
by age, when they start from 13 to say 18.
So starting with 13 to 14,
Yeah.
which is where
Okay.
all our fights happen.
Yeah,
So
so I would say that at 13 and 14, I'm just equating this, that's grade 8. That's not even high school yet. Um,
Leave
Really,
them
all
alone.
parents,
Take
leave
them
them
for
alone.
holidays. Let them
Yeah,
go for their
just
holidays. Yeah.
exactly take them for holidays. Let them explore passions. Let them do many, many different things. Have fun. Make a lot of friends. Involve them in many different aspects of life. Teach them the values that they need to learn. Um,
okay.
and I mean, if you're thinking about college at 13 or 14, uh, you're a tiger mom, helicopter dad who deserves a medal.
Okay, 15, 16.
Yeah, 15, 16, you need to seriously start thinking about this. You're in ninth grade or going into the 10th grade. Look, a college application looks at your entire high school progression, how well you've done. They like to see consistent grades and an upwardly moving graph rather than dips and peaks. So, at 15, 16, the focus needs to be on ensuring that the academic foundation is very strong. You do need to start looking at leadership and early level extracurricular activities, social service, too early for internships. Certainly, the books you're reading, travel is always a big one. Languages, ensuring that you're doing a lot of stuff outside of school, finding an early passion project if you have one. If you don't have one, don't force the issue. Uh, but really, you need to start thinking about what you're doing. Also, a bit too early for college visits, if at all you even need them.
And then the next stage is 16 to 18, or
What
Yeah, then
matters more?
16 to 18 is when it really starts to get busy, right? I mean, in the 11th, when you're in the 11th grade, or in America when you're in your junior year, the academic pressure starts to mount. By then, you need to have certain amount of leadership, perhaps also in the summer, get your first internship out of the way, involve yourself in a deeper breadth of knowledge, across one or two very specific areas. So you're better off showing excellence in one or two areas rather than showing 10 jack of all trade extracurriculars and uh, projects. So excellence is important. Academics is always critical. At that stage, start, maybe even get your first SAT or ACT out of the way, because then you can redo it. It's almost likely that you'll need to do it twice unless you're absolutely brilliant at that kind of testing methodology. So, I would start looking at making sure that the resume towards an end goal roadmap is starting to fall into place. And then when you're in your 12th grade, of course, is when it all starts to happen. Sometime between August, when you're hitting your first early decision deadlines, you have to make sure your final SAT or ACT is out of the way. By now, you need to know, make sure your recommenders, your teachers, as well as your external recommenders are totally briefed, know exactly what they want to write about. Make sure you have what we call a cheat sheet, which will remind them of your achievements and what they've done. Recommendations as far as possible, make or break an essay. If you asked me what's the most important thing about an application, I would say it's the recommendations, even more so than the essays. Um, and and eventually, by then by September, October, it's too late to do anything but fine tuning. So you better have it all done by then.
Okay, let's go into something a little light and fun.
Oh, okay.
Rapid fire.
Okay.
What's the story with?
So rapid fire for you, Mohit. Best age to start seriously for a kid.
I would say it's 15, 16.
Okay.
Most overrated extracurricular activity.
Any extracurricular activity that's like a one-off. So if you go once in 4 years for beach cleaning, or if you go to a, a cancer home, as an example,
Or a
once.
rural India experience, which has become such a staple in a lot of applications, right?
Yeah, but like there are a lot of kids who've done it continuously for
That's
four
what I'm saying.
years.
That
Yeah.
one-off is
So
the
Yes.
one-off is the problem.
yeah. So it's the one-offs are which are the problem.
Uh, Most overused essay topic.
Probably a setback where you've had a issue with a friend, or a sports setback. This is really overused and really I wouldn't recommend it.
AI, threat or tool?
Threat.
Okay. One underrated university.
Underrated. Okay, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but
Yeah,
I
just
really,
one.
yeah, just one. I would, I like Wisconsin Madison. I think that's a great school.
Okay. IIT or a mid-tier US university?
IIT for an engineer, no question. Yeah,
So that best country outside the UK or the
would be
US is
would be
Would be
Canada.
Canada.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
okay. So last question for this lovely podcast
Mega
with so
session.
much information, mega session is after 35 years, what's that one piece of advice that always holds true?
Gospel.
For the kids, I would say, just be you, be authentic. Don't get trapped in this dream college uh you know quagmire, because there are many, many good schools out there. And the one bit of advice that I'll give them is that you're going to be spending a lot of your parents hard earned money. Don't leave anything behind on the table. Go to the college whichever you get into. Every college has so much opportunity that it's impossible for you to make the most of it from any one college in 4 years. Make the most of it, and spend as much time as you possibly can in exploring and developing who you are as a person. But the one advice I would give them is always stay focused on the one important thing, as to what your purpose is. So, in a confluence triangle, why you're going to college, how you're going to excel at solving for that why, but most importantly, stay true to the what, which is what impact are you going to have on the planet, not just while you're in college, but in the future as well. And I think for students, that's extremely important. The best wisdom they I can give them is, whatever you're doing, do it for the planet, do it for the world, do it for the community, and you'll never fail.
Okay, and parents?
Let your kids live their dream. Don't necessarily ask them to live yours.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wow.
That's very nice and
Very
very
nice.
profound.
Very profound.
Thank you very much, Mo and Shweta. Now you know why
Sure.
we've had this discussion, Mohit and I. I've asked him not to leave any wills in the unfortunate event of something happening to both of us, but just leave the kids' college applications sorted out, because it is really a minefield.
My
But
God, you have a professional
No,
in the house.
no,
So
and I'm happy to, and we're so grateful to be able to share it, Shweta, you and
Yeah.
I, with everybody
Yes,
else, because
yes.
it's a massively long session, and it's been navigating a minefield
Yeah.
of what exists in front
So,
of most parents. But thank you so much for
thank you.
helping us
it's a
simplify
pleasure.
it.
But one thing I want to just reiterate here, Mandira, that nobody, again, I'm going to say this, I don't need to leave any applications behind for any kid. They're all capable of doing it on their own. At
Correct.
best, I'm merely a guide and a mentor. They don't need me to do the applications for them.
Well said,
Absolutely.
actually.
Thank you. Yes.
All
you're
right. Perfect. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mo. This has been
Thank
very,
you.
Middle
very
of the
helpful.
day, you've taken out so much time in your madness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.